group Pilates training in a serene, comfortable atmosphere. We are fully equipped with top-of-the-line Stop Pilates equipment and are ready to work with you to help you achieve your goals of gaining strength and flexibility, improving body image and self-confidence, recovering from injury or childbirth, and finally addressing those nagging chronic aches and pains. Visit us at Turning Point Studio, 22R Samoset Street in Plymouth, 508-747-8283. Again, that's 508-747-8283.
95.9 WATD here on the South Shore. Lady, you know that what you see outside, that is snow. We are used to it, and we're going to continue to see that throughout the night. With a total of 6 to 12 inches here on the South Shore, and 29 degrees would be the high tomorrow. And when this thing ends around 2 o'clock, stay tuned to WATD for any cancellations, postponements, or any of that sort of stuff. But now stay tuned for Linnea Starr. Good evening, Linnea.
Hi, how are you? I'm getting a little tired of the same snow.
I know. It seems every time we put you on, we've got a snowstorm or some sort of thing going on.
Well, I must have some connection to, the winter months. I'm really looking forward.
Well, get a connection to the heat miser, will you?
Yes, and daylight savings, I think, is March 8th, so I think we're on our way. Thank you.
Very good. Have a good show tonight.
You too. Take care. Good evening, everyone. I'm hoping that we have some callers that are going to call in and maybe ask us some questions about their destiny. My name is Linnea. My website is linneastar.com, and we are open, to have people calling us in for different questions they might have about the past, the present, or the future. A lot of my work involves retrocognition. And retrocognition is when you go back into someone's vibration and bring information forward that I wouldn't have any knowledge of. I recently did an event on the North Shore Wednesday night, and there was a very lovely woman in the audience, and I happened to go to her, and I gave her the name Rachel. Her mother was giving me the name Rachel, and she said, that's my Hebrew name. And as we continued to talk, I said, your mother is sending love to Ruth, and the woman said, actually, Ruth is my birth name. So I think she was quite pleased that I got her religious name as well as her birth name, and this lady and I have never met with each other. If you look at the website, linneastar.com, you'll see a lot of testimonials from people who write in about things that have happened for them, and one of the things I'm known for is prophecy. Prophecy is when you're given a series of events and they do come true. And I have been told by rabbis, ministers, and priests that if your prophecies do become a reality, then your gift is a gift from the divine. One of the examples I can give you is Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc had a lot of visions, a lot of prophecies, and unfortunately back in her day, they were not readily accepted, and as you know, she was burned at the stake. However, 400 years later, after that event, they did canonize her, and she did reach sainthood for the miraculous visions that she was able to give to the world. I do ask people to have an open heart and an open mind, simply because when you're open to the vibration, it makes it a lot easier for anyone in the metaphysical field to do the kind of work that we're trying to do with you. And I am asking for some prayer petitions. On my website, you'll see a picture of St. Teresa, and there is a petition to bring a lady home that has been missing in the North Shore area since December 15th. I'm just asking for people to petition to have this lovely lady come back to her family. She disappeared without a trace, and they're having some issues trying to find her. I still connect with her on the earth plane, and I'm just hoping that through the petitions and through, the police work that they're utilizing, they are going to bring her home safely to the people that are worried about her and caring that she does return to them. The other thing is we're coming close to the spring equinox, and I think the spring equinox is generally around March 20th or 21st, and it's kind of an exciting event. The Earth comes into conjunction with the planetary aspects, and it connects the centers of the Earth and the Sun, and we get a lot of happy vibrations. A lot of fortuitous things happen during a spring equinox around us. So I would just tell people to bear with the bad weather, and hopefully the spring equinox is going to bring us, the spring, and with that all the winter is going to be disappearing, and we won't have to worry about that anymore. I am hoping that people will call in tonight. It's a snowy night. Maybe people are sitting home and, listening to the show and maybe want to get a heads up on some of the things that are around them. I always tell people to start the new year with a new vibration. You know, it's a good time to make resolutions for your life events. Maybe you're planning things differently. Maybe you're taking care of yourself a little bit better, nutritionally, exercise-wise. And if you just put your mind, body, and spirit together, hopefully your plans will, you know, allow you to make the appropriate changes to give you optimal new year and optimal health and optimal economic fortitude as we forge on through our lives. I do want to mention some metaphysical terms, and I think psychometry is kind of a fascinating aspect of this type of work. Psychometry is when you hold an object or you hold a piece of jewelry and you're able to get information gleaned from the owner. And I often ask people to bring a piece of jewelry or an object that might have belonged to somebody, and I'm able to pick up the vibration of the previous owner. And I have found out that when I go to antique stores, particularly if I pick something up, sometimes I will get a vibration of the original person who might have owned the object years ago. I was once involved with a company that did estate sales, and I used to find that the psychometry aspect of metaphysics would often jump out at me. And I walked into a home one day and did not know anything about the owner, and I immediately picked up organ music and a deep religious connection. I asked the person who was working with me if she knew anything about the past history of the house, and it turned out that the owner had been a woman who had wanted to become a nun, did not, but became an organist in many of the local churches in the community and was a very spiritually religious woman. So I had picked up that information as I walked through her house. The other aspects of metaphysical work involves the prophecies of the future, retrocognition in the past, holding an object, psychometry, giving you the information from it, and also photo recognition. Sometimes people will bring a picture or a photo that has people in it, and sometimes I'm able to identify the person they're trying to reach and to get names, dates, etc. of things that are germane to the people that are looking for information. Caller? We do have a caller, or we don't? I can't tell. The other thing is that recently I went to a home in Melrose, and the original owner was long gone from the early 19th century, and the lady had found a picture of the family in the attic. I took the picture and I gave her some information, and I picked up that one of the gentlemen in the picture had moved to Pennsylvania to become an attorney. It turned out that he did, and two of the women in the picture I said were sisters who lived on the upstairs and the downstairs of the home and had never married. And the new owner had said to me that is the background of the two sisters that are in the picture, and the brother had gone to Pennsylvania to become a lawyer. These people, probably died at the turn of the century. I did not know any of them, but the woman had done a research through the Historical Society and already had the information, but I, verified it when I came to her house. I do tell people to follow your hunches, follow your own intuitiveness, because sometimes that's the universe's way of telling you when you have a good feeling about something to go with it. When you have a feeling of hesitancy, sometimes that means maybe we should think twice before we take that pathway. And I do remember coming home one night from college, and something told me not to go through a certain park in Cambridge. And several times I tried to walk through this park, and it was almost like I had a barrier in front of me. I could not make it through. Finally, I just turned around, and I took the subway to, another station where my father would pick me up. I called the house. He came to pick me up 10 minutes later, and he asked me where I had been at 5:30 that night, and I told him I had been trying to cross through Longfellow Park in Cambridge. And he says, your mother got very upset around 5:30 and thought that there was something that wasn't good around you and began to pray. By the time we got home, it was 6 o'clock, and the news was on, and we found out that in that particular park in Cambridge that night there had been a robbery right around 5:30, and I had avoided it simply because I had not walked through there. My spirit guide obviously was protecting me, and luckily, I did not walk in on anything or witness anything that I could have been involved in and maybe, had suffered some kind of injury or been hurt by what was going on. I do tell people that children have instant recall. They can see the spirit world, so lots of times young children are able to see spiritual messengers that come to them. That could be relatives. It could be spirit guides. unfortunately, in this society, many times it's programmed out of children, and by the time they reach adolescence, they don't have that connection anymore. There is something called the indigo child, and I think there are some books out there on this, and the indigo child refers to children who are born with the sixth sense, and they start to develop metaphysical talents at a very early age. Some families encourage it, which is what my family did. Other families don't understand it or they're not comfortable with it, and hence sometimes the gift does not get developed as it might have happened if the family was a little more conducive to it. We are hoping that people will call in tonight to ask questions or to, have some tarot cards done for them. The tarot deck is centuries old, and the original place where it came from is in Egypt. The Egyptians used to use the tarot deck to see the future, and what happened was gypsies who came from Egypt, hence the name gypsy, took the tarot deck and brought it throughout Europe, and it eventually landed in Italy, where it became the Tarocchi deck, and it was the precursor to our regular 52-card deck. So the tarot deck has an ancient and sacred history of many years' duration. And you can look at the tarot deck, and you can find out answers to questions. You can find out future events, and some of them are very intricate. I always refer people to the Rider deck. The Rider deck is very, very beautiful, and for a beginner that's using the tarot deck, the Rider deck is a little bit easier to manipulate because the figures are easily recognizable, and it's a deck you can become used to as you move along your metaphysical journey in the spirit realm. I do hope there are some people calling into us tonight, maybe some people that have had things come true for themselves, can call us back and just bear witness to some of the things that we might have told them. I did get a phone call recently from a client that I saw about a year ago, and she is going to see me in a couple of weeks, and the reason being is the night that I met her, I predicted a baby girl around her, and I told her that her windshield would break and the baby girl would be born shortly, about a year later. She told me 3 weeks after she met me that her windshield did indeed crack, and she found out she was pregnant a couple of days later, and the baby was born in August. She is now a year old, and the family would like to meet me again because some of the things I said did come true for her, particularly this little baby girl. So I do tell people that when you do go to somebody, make sure that they're reputable, make sure that they have, credentials that are applicable to the work that they're doing. And I think that word of mouth is always a good way to find somebody. If somebody has seen someone and they're talking to you about the work that they've experienced, I think that's a good indication. You can also look up on their website and see some of the agencies they might be connected with, some of the programs they're involved with in the community. And I had a wonderful event recently at the Hilltop Restaurant in Saugus, Massachusetts. February 6th, we had 103 people that showed up for an evening of metaphysical messages, and it was very well received. And we've rescheduled another event on May 1st at 6:30 at the Hilltop Steakhouse in Saugus, Mass. You can look on my website, linneastar.com, and you'll see the events page. And I'm also doing a program at the Amesbury Playhouse on Friday, March 20th, from 6:30 to 10. The dinner is included, and you can see the details on my website, and I'll be doing interactive mediumship, which is to walk into a group of people and to bear witness to the eternity of the soul. At the Hilltop, I went to every table, and I did about 40 people, and it was a very, very wonderful night. People, I think, didn't know quite what to expect, and they got names, dates, places, and things that were germane to them that I couldn't possibly know. So I do, tell people to look at my website, to read the testimonial page, and to see some of the things that people write in about, to tell what has come true for them. I recently did a group locally the other night, and I happened to come to one of the ladies at the event, and I saw an adoption around her, and I said Seoul, Korea. And it turned out that this young woman was adopted from Seoul, Korea about 30 years ago, and I gave her information about her life, and I gave her information about maybe where her relatives originally came from. And I think that this young woman was very astounded because a lot of the things she could connect with. And I did give her some prophecies, and I did see, her reconnecting with her birth family at some point in time, which I think this is something she's hoping for. And she has promised that as soon as that prophecy comes true, she will let me know. And I'm hoping, that it's rather soon. So again, if there are audience listeners that want to call in to have explanations about the metaphysical realm or to have, some cards pulled for them, that would be great. I know that yesterday I did another radio show in Orlando, Florida, and the hostess had spoken to me several months ago, and some things came true for her. She was quite thrilled about it. And she had a caller that called in to, be curious about what metaphysical information is, and the woman said, "Can you find anything out about me?" And I said, "Actually, I hear a baby coming in October," and the girl said to me, "I am expecting a baby in October." And I picked up that it was a boy. They're not sure if it's a boy yet. But I brought her father back from the spirit realm, and the father wanted her to know that he knew about this wonderful event that was coming into the family's vibration. And the father gave me August 16th, and she told me that that was the day of her father's funeral. I think he died about 3 or 4 years ago. So this girl was pretty happy, calling me from Orlando, Florida, not knowing me and me not knowing her, and me telling her that her wonderful dad came back to let her know that he does know this beautiful boy is coming into the earth plane. So once again, if you can try to call into the station for any questions or any comments about the metaphysical realm, we would welcome the opportunity to speak with you and to, give you some information that I might be able to pick up for you. I do recommend that people look at Edgar Cayce's website, Cayce. Edgar Cayce was known as the Sleeping Prophet, and he has probably maybe 25 to 30,000 readings on file. He used to go into a trance. He was a trance medium, and that's something a little bit different. I'm not a trance medium. I prefer to be conscious when I do my work. But Cayce's claim to fame in 1932, when the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped, Cayce went into a trance, and he told them that the child, unfortunately, was no longer on the earth plane. He then told them a street address. He gave them the name of a street, and he said it would be pivotal in the investigation of what happened to this little child. 3 years later, when they arrested Bruno Hauptmann for the crime of the kidnapping of this little boy, the street that Bruno Hauptmann lived on was the very street that Edgar Cayce had given them 3 years previously. Mr. Cayce lived in Virginia Beach, and the child that we're discussing lived in New Jersey. No one knew how he got the information, but obviously it had to be through the spirit realm. Edgar Cayce has a company in Virginia Beach called the Association for Research and Enlightenment. They still conduct a lot of metaphysical events, and it is an interesting website because it will tell you a lot of things that Edgar Cayce was involved in. What happened was, when he was about 12 years of age, he was visited by an angel, and the angel told him that he had a higher calling on the earth plane. And Edgar Cayce was having some trouble in school. He was not learning very well, and the angel told him to simply put his books under his pillow, and he would know everything by morning. From that day on, Edgar Cayce used to put all of his math or his schoolwork under his pillow, and when he woke up in the morning, he had instant recall as to whatever it was he was supposed to learn. As it turned out, he did grow up and did become one of the greatest trance mediums the world has ever known. I believe he passed away in the 1940s, but his work is still very legendary, very spiritual gentleman, and the Association for Research and Enlightenment continues his metaphysical quest. And if you look at some of his case histories, some of them are amazing. He was taken to McGill University in Canada early on in his career, and they were very intrigued because he was known as a medical intuitive, and a medical intuitive is able to look at you and maybe give you some clues as to medical issues around you. And when they took him to McGill University, he went into a trance, and he got very angry during the trance stage, and he was telling them through the trance mediumship that they had moved all the patients that he was to delve into their medical issues. And he correctly named the room number and where the patient had been moved and gave the correct medical diagnosis. When he woke up, they did say to him, "We did try to trick you. We did move the patients to different rooms, and we don't know how you did what you do," but they asked him to leave, and they were not interested in following up on how he, had these mysterious powers. I do find that in my work. sometimes people will try to fool me or trick me, and that's kind of insincere, because if you are going to try to do something with this, we have to be honest with each other. And I do remember an occasion where I did an event locally, and there was a young woman in the audience, and she handed me a pair of earrings. And as I held the earrings, I looked at her and I said, "You've come for the truth?" And she said, "I have." And I said, "The truth is that these earrings belong to no one that you know. You brought them with you, and you told the people in your group that you were going to hand me these earrings, and I would think they were your grandmother's or your aunt's, and I would look like an idiot." The woman then had to sheepishly admit that, yes, those were her roommate's grandmother's earrings, but she just brought them to trick me, to see if she could, find out if I was really gifted. I handed back the earrings to her, and I sincerely told her, never to come to anything that I did again. And I said, if you do have the opportunity to visit someone who is a gifted medium, give them the respect that they deserve and let them do their craft, and try to be as open-hearted and as honest as possible, because there is no room for trickery involved. I think she was a little surprised that I was able to ascertain that, but it happens, here and there, and it's a disappointment, because you would want people to have an open heart and an open mind to work with you to get the most optimal results, but, what can I say? Part of my work that I'm known for is the APPORT aspect of my work, APPORT, and I will often tell you, you might receive something from the spirit world, and it's considered an APPORT. And a few days later, a few months later, you'd receive the item. I think that one of our staff members at the radio station, Nora Knight, was told by me in the late summer she would get a blue dream catcher from her grandfather. A few days later, she went to work, and there was a package in her mailbox. She opened it up, and it was indeed a dream catcher, and it was blue with feathers on it, and it had been put there inadvertently. The person that it was meant for had moved away, and somehow the secretary just stuck it in Nora's mailbox, even though she's one of 6 social workers. And again, the grandfather had come back to Nora to tell us she would get the APPORT of a dream catcher, and a few days later she did indeed receive it. So I would tell people to look at the website, to look at some of the testimonial pages, to see some of the results that have been achieved through this kind of work. And I really encourage people to go to different people. Go to different people and find the practitioner that you're the most comfortable with. Find the practitioner that's the most sincere and the most honest. Find the practitioner that brings back the spirit you're trying to connect with and gives you the future, and it comes true. There are many wonderful people out there, and you have to find the one that fits your schedule and the one that fits your vibration to the most beneficial methodology for the both of you. I would ask people to have an open heart and an open mind when they do something like this. And I do find that since there are television shows, radio shows, etc., that deal with the metaphysical realm, I think that we are in a better vibration to appreciate and truly understand that the soul is eternal, that it does go on indefinitely throughout, eternity, and we are going to be reunited with our loved ones again, when it is our time to go to glory. I do tell people that this particular season is very meaningful. We have the spring coming, we have daylight savings time, we have the renewal of the earth, we have spring with everything blossoming and opening up again. We also have the beautiful holiday of Passover and the wonderful holiday of Easter, and I think both holidays sincerely point to mankind and our journey on the earth plane. Both holidays are completely connected to the light, and I think all of us, have to have an anchor to hold on to, whatever faith we have. We should always love everybody else's faith unconditionally. I think that is probably the best way to merge all beautiful religions together. They're like flowers in a garden. You can't really say which one is the most beautiful, but you can admire and cherish everyone's faith as much as you cherish your own. So I would ask, if people are going to call in, we're almost coming to the end of the hour. It might be that people are, bogged down with bad weather. Maybe they're not conducive to listening to a metaphysical show tonight, and that's a disappointment, because I do like to have call-ins to speak to and give information about. I would ask that in the future, when you are thinking about going to someone, that you maybe a few days before, you think about your questions, write them down, have an open heart and an open mind. You might also avoid having preconceived notions about what this is, and I find that a lot of people that come to events that I do at Salem State or the Danvers YMCA or the Marblehead Park and Rec Department or the Hilltop Restaurant, I find a lot of people that come in just with an open heart and an open mind and no preconceived notions. The information that they're receiving is quite optimal, and they're pretty happy about it. And I know that the prophecy part of it you have to wait for, which is, sometimes we're impatient and we want it to happen right away. But the thing is, if you look at my website, linneastar.com, you will see a lot of people that have written in regarding prophecies that have come true for them. And I just tell people that sometimes we choose our own destiny. Not always is your prophecy going to come true completely, simply because you might change your pathway on the road of life. But in speaking to the multitudes of people that I do speak to, a lot of them will bear witness to me later on that they did marry the person I saw for them. They did get the job that I saw coming their way. They did have the child that I predicted. Recently, I did a group of people in a local area, and I told the woman she would be a mother by September, and this was probably about a year before that. And I gave her the name of a doctor. I said, it's a doctor's name, and I gave her another name, and I didn't quite know what the name meant, but I saw that she needed a synthetic uterus. And I said, you need to have a sling put in for you to have your pregnancy. And she indicated that that was true, and I said, you will be a mother within a year. She recently contacted me to let me know that she was indeed the mother of twins, a boy and a girl. It had happened in the time frame that I predicted. And the name that I gave her, first of all, was the name of the doctor who put the sling in, and the second name that I gave her was the clinic that did this particular type of work in the Boston area, all of which I would not know. That is not something within my realm. So when you do get the people that call you or write to you to tell you about bearing witness, it is a wonderful feeling because they're giving you the affirmation that your work is valuable and that you are hitting the mark when you are talking and giving your information to people that seek it out. I would ask again to tune in to me. I'm usually on, the first Sunday of the month at 7:30 to 8 o'clock. It looks like somebody's not having people call in tonight. Maybe the weather is a decisive factor in that. But I would just ask that everyone look at the website, linneastar, linneastar.com, into Google. Look up Edgar Cayce, Cayce. His website, I believe, is Virginia Beach, the Association for Research and Enlightenment. There are many mediums out there that have, made great contributions to the world. One of them is Arthur Ford. Arthur Ford was a medium in 1928 that gave the message that Houdini had left for his wife prior to Houdini's death. The message was, Rosabelle, believe, believe, and Arthur Ford met Mrs. Houdini a couple of years after Houdini's passing and gave her that message, and Mrs. Houdini verified that Harry Houdini had given her that message on his deathbed, and no one else knew about it but she and her husband. Arthur Ford was catapulted to fame, and he would be the John Edward of the years that he was on the Earth plane. I think he passed away in 1972. You can look him up online. You'll see some of his prophecies and some of his work. And again, Harry Houdini left a prophecy for his wife, Rosabelle, believe, believe, and Arthur Ford was the person who cracked the Houdini code. Again, I would ask that people, try to call in when I'm online, on air, to give you metaphysical messages. It doesn't look like that's going to happen tonight, and, sometimes we can't get call-ins, which is unfortunate. I also would give you the name of Eileen Garrett, Garrett. Eileen Garrett was a medium in the 70s, and she came from Ireland originally, and her gift of prophecy was quite profound. She started a company called the Parapsychological Foundation out of New York. They have a wonderful website, and her family continues her work to this day. They do a lot of metaphysical conventions. They do a lot of metaphysical investigations. That is another medium that you might want to look up. So I would say that Arthur Ford, Edgar Cayce, Eileen Garrett, Peter Herkos was another famous medium, and he did not have any psychic powers until he fell off a ladder and was unconscious for 2 days. When he woke up from his injury, it turned out that he had psychic powers, and he did a lot with criminal investigations and solved several cases that were very difficult to solve. He would pick up information, and the police would investigate upon it and find out that this man was actually giving them many unbelievable clues that would lead to the perpetrator's arrest and conviction. So again, people often ask me if I get involved in criminal cases, and I tend to stay away from that simply because the news is not always as beneficial as I would want it to be, but I have helped out on certain occasions, and I recently met a family in my area where I had told them a year ago that it would be a solving situation regarding a murder victim in Florida. The information I gave them turned out to be correct, and I gave them a time frame, and I told them that the two people that would be connected to this would turn on the person who did it, and there would be some forensic evidence found in a swamp. I recently met with these people, and indeed, many of them...
95.9 WATD FM Marshfield and 95.9 WATD.com, the South Shore's news, weather, and traffic station.